Well, can I say good morning to you all and welcome to this meeting, and members of the public, and warm welcome. Now, we're recording now, so I have to tell you about webcasting. I'm sure you know it off by heart. Please note that this is a formal public Highland Council meeting and is being recorded and will be uploaded for public access via the Council's YouTube site. You are therefore reminded not to make specific references to individuals and to only disclose information which is in the public domain. I also remind members that the chat function is to be used only for placing motions and amendments, and you don't need the last paragraph. So we now go forward. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Mackenzie, and if you can indicate your presence when I say your name, please. Councillor Kennedy?
Present.
Councillor McLean?
Present.
Councillor Patterson?
Present, thank you.
Thank you.
Declarations of interest. Members are asked to consider whether they have an interest to declare in relation to any item on the agenda for this meeting. Is there any? No? Sean?
I'm just going to mention one thing. When we get to item 4, we're going to be talking about the area roads capital programme and everything. If anything comes up about Hill Street, I'm going to declare an interest then. So I know we're all getting emails and everything about it. So because I live in Hill Street, I would walk away from it at that, yeah?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, item 3 is the area performance summary, and Chief Inspector David McAlpine's here, and he has got to take us through the report. Thank you very much.
Morning, Chair. Morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm Chief Inspector David McAlpine here to present the Dingwall and Seaforth area report covering 1st of April until the 31st of December 2025. I'm aware that the report has been circulated prior to the meeting, and I'm not going to read everything verbatim that's in the report, but just to highlight to you that the 5-year average figures do take into account years that we were in COVID, so that can have an influence on the stats. And also the figures in the report that's been shared with you also incorporates other area committees, including Black Isle and Easter Ross, Caithness, Dingwall and Seaforth, Sutherland and Wester Ross, Strathpeffer and Lochcalsh. So that's just for your awareness as well. Obviously, just moving on to page 3, the local policing priorities. We've got the 6 priorities there in terms of road safety and road crime, acquisitive crime, serious organised crime, antisocial behaviour, violence and disorder, protecting vulnerable people, and terrorism and public order. So page 4 is generally our road safety and road crime statistics. As you can see, tragically and unfortunately, we've got an increase in the number of fatalities to do with RTCs in 2025-26 compared to 24-25 reporting period. So we're up by 3 fatalities in that time. Just to give you a wee bit of context with regards of the 6 fatalities, it's 6 individual road traffic crashes, and they're across the north area from Wick. We've got the A9 between Invergordon and Milton. We've got the B9176, which is sort of near Alness towards Easter Ardross. We've got the A9 at Latherin, and then we've got the 832, pardon my pronunciation here, but Turnaig. It's sort of on the way to Poolew, and then the A9 Conagower. So, yeah, as I said, tragically, we've got an increase in fatalities. Drink driving offences. We're up this year to 189, which is an increase of 11 from 24-25 reporting period. To break that down into your area for Dingwall and Seaforth, that is 34. And then speeding offences, we've had a large increase in speeding offences this year. We're up to 258 for the north. But for your area for Dingwall and Seaforth, we are sitting at 6. There's a lot of work that's ongoing with road traffic to obviously make our roads safer. Just again, some further context, we have classifications of offences that we call fatal fives. So that includes speeding, dangerous careless driving, mobile phone offences, drink drug driving, and then obviously seatbelt offences. On liaison with the Chief Inspector for Road Traffic, who works in Dingwall, those detections are at 29% for the division. And our serious injury RTCs are down by approximately 50%. So there's a lot of work ongoing through road traffic officers and local officers to try and make the roads as safe as we possibly can just now. On top of that, we do driver engagement sessions with young drivers, older drivers. There's liaison with hotel properties, also with hire companies, just to give out leaflets to people who may not be used to driving on our sort of localised roads and that as well. So there's a lot of work that goes on in the background as well, just to try and improve driver standards. Page 6 of the report goes into antisocial behaviour, disorder and violence. You can see there we haven't had a murder in the north for a couple of years now, which is obviously a great result to see. Assaults are up, so we're up to 499 for the north compared to 463 for 24-25. And for your area, Dingwall and Seaforth, that number is 133, just to provide some localised context. The serious assaults were up by 2 for this year, 25-26 reporting period compared to 24-25, which was 23. And then in relation to drug possession offences, we had an increase. So for the north, we're at 246 for 25-26, which is an increase of 20 from last year's figure. Again, for Dingwall and Seaforth, that is 50 reported drug possession offences. And part of that comes in with the increase of the road safety drug driving offences. We have had an increase in that. When we do checks and stop checks on vehicles, generally when it's drug related, there could be signs of drug misuse in the car, and we would search that car and find some personal possession of controlled substances as well. So we do have a harm prevention officer who's based at divisional headquarters, and they will work with vulnerable people in the community, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, to try and obviously give them the correct support, signpost them to our other third party and third sector agencies who can provide that advice and assistance to try and improve their lifestyle and help them with their addictions. Moving on to acquisitive crime, obviously the figures there, we've had a slight decrease in housebreaking for the north. For Dingwall, it's 4 for the reporting period. Frauds, unfortunately, are up, and this is a trend that we're seeing across all of Scotland. So when we think of frauds, we're looking at this sort of telephone frauds, internet frauds, Bitcoin, that sort of type of incident. That is up, and the people that are doing this are very professional and very good at what they do to make victims believe that they are phoning from a bank or other agencies, etc. Theft by shoplifting is up for the area. So for 25-26, it's 202 reported crimes compared to 140 for 24-25 period. For Dingwall and Seaforth, that's 47. We can attribute some of these increases to potentially cost of living, which has been hard for everyone in the area. We have attributed sort of 35 of that 202 to one individual who's been reported and is going to get dealt with by the court systems. So although the increase we can attribute to maybe a handful of people doing multiple offences for theft by shoplifting. There was an operation called Operation Lambie that was to try and target shoplifting in the area and N Division, and working with increased patrols and prevention intervention officers who went into localised premises to try and offer target hardening advice. We do work closely with premises to try and prevent, or at least make it more difficult to commit this crime. Moving on to page 8 for protecting vulnerable people. As you can see there, rape is the amount of rape reported incidents is down by 8 for this year's reporting period to 41. For the Dingwall and Seaforth area, it's at 9. And then another significant one is the missing persons reported is significantly down from last year's reporting period to 93 from 132. This is because a lot of work, we've got a missing person coordinator who works in divisional headquarters, and they engage with individuals that are obviously going missing, but also we've got care homes and establishments that we engage with, and we put in, or try and put in, different protocols to stop them being reported, which then obviously allows officers more time to get on with dealing with crime, etc. And this work behind the scenes is having a positive impact on a number of reported cases we're getting from missing persons. Moving through to serious and organised crime on page 9, drug supply offences, which is obviously affecting everywhere in the Highlands. There's been 31 recorded for the North for 25-26 reporting period, compared to 28 for 24-25 period. For, again, local context, Dingwall and Seaforth, that is 6. So that is ongoing work. Obviously, county lines plays a part in that. Through the road traffic, obviously on the road stopping vehicles, we will detect people travelling with drugs. We use local intelligence and information to try and obviously detect more crime, which we rely heavily on our members of the public to provide and furnish us with that information. But it's an ongoing piece of work that we continually try and strive to stop drug supply offences in the area. Page 10 is just obviously the information in relation to counter-terrorism. Work with obviously our third sector. So obviously page 10 just gives an update on the counter-terrorism. We work with our third sector partners for that in terms of education, trying to identify anyone who's maybe more vulnerable to sort of being groomed into that sort of side of crime. We work with social work and that as well. So that is continually ongoing. And then obviously pages 11 to 13 provide the sort of figures for the North. But obviously if you have any questions regarding the report, I can see if I can provide more localised context for you with the Dingwall and Seaforth figures that I have in front of me. I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Oh, I have to put that on. My apology again. I haven't thrown you wrong. You very thorough, very much. Your report was thorough, and you answered some of the questions that I was going to ask. But the one that that really worries me is the county lines, and I get many people phoning me saying they think that their child has been approached at out with a house or anything. So that's one question. And the other one is that quite a number of people keep saying that they report incidents, but nothing seems to be done. So I would like to get an answer for that. And then I'll put it over to the members if they've got some questions. Thank you, David.
Yeah, so obviously county lines a nationwide sort of scourge that's affecting pretty much all of the nation. So just provide some context. The county line is obviously it can be coming across counties and across borders, but the line is generally the mobile phone or the contact number that they would use. That's your line to get the contact to buy drugs. So we have a divisional organised crime team in Inverness that deals specifically with county line activity. That has been increased in the last few months with more officers being put into that. And basically, in terms of the vulnerabilities that you're saying about children, that these gangs are highly organised and they will identify vulnerable people in communities, and sometimes that is youngsters who may obviously be on the fringes of activity themselves. They will get them to carry the drugs for them to, for example, from Liverpool to Inverness, and they will be the couriers. And then there will be people potentially in your community who are vulnerable through addictions and other vulnerabilities. And the group will take over their property, which is called cocoon. They will then use that property as their base for a short time to sell the drugs that have been transported up. And then obviously they may move on to somebody else who's vulnerable in the community. So they're not staying within the one property all the time. This is where we have members of the public and officers gathering that information and intelligence. There's a lot of sort of inquiries that go on in the background that you'll never see, but we rely on members of the public to see suspicious activity going on at a property, or again, like you say, if there's an individual you think may be involved, again, give us that information, because then through our partners and education and that, if they are younger, we can then feed into them to see what's happening, provide support, guidance, and deter them from that sort of line they may be going down. When a member of the public provides us information and intelligence, it comes into us and they might not hear anything ever again. And we often get, oh, but I've told the police and they've done nothing about it. If I can break it down as to sort of simplify it, as if you think of a jigsaw, and that one bit of information that we get will be one part of the jigsaw. Now, if I put that into my sort of picture, so to speak, I can't see what's going on. So we rely on more information, more intelligence, and that comes in from other members of the public, or it comes in from officers themselves who are gathering information. And then the more pieces we have, the clearer that picture becomes. And once we get that clear picture of what's going on, we can then apply for example, a drugs search warrant. We then have to fill in that drug search warrant with all the information we have and the reasons why we wish to proceed to that. That then goes to the Procurator Fiscal. They review it, and then if they agree that we have enough sort of evidence to authorise that, we will then obviously go to a sheriff to get endorsement to be able to enforce that drug search warrant at a property or properties. But that intelligence gathering to get that picture can take a wee while. So obviously the more people that phone in, the better quality of that picture, but the quicker that picture can be sort of materialised, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of work that goes on in the background, and we can't always act on one bit of intelligence. We just have to sort of submit that and then wait for more to come in, or try and generate more information in that as well. So hopefully that sort of quick whistle-stop tour will maybe give you a wee bit more context.
And the people saying that the report incidents and nobody, you know, can I get a bit more about that?
In terms of drugs, or in terms of?
Well, no, everything's an incident. You know, people say, you know, we've phoned the police about an incident and they say they'll come out and they don't appear, or they say they'll get someone, you know, to come out.
So new processes were obviously instituted a few years ago, so we've got different varying grades of calls. So if somebody phones 999, that'll get graded as an immediate response or a prompt response, and then generally there should be obviously officers attending for those. If it's a sort of what we'd call a routine grading. People may be asked to phone 101, they wouldn't phone 999, they would phone 101, and then obviously the call would get logged, and then it goes to the resolution team. So the resolution team are a team of officers, and they will phone back the complainer. But obviously you can imagine there's quite a lot of calls that come in sometimes and that as well. So it may take a couple of days. If they don't get hold of the complainer, they'll leave a message. But there's only so many times we can try and phone somebody back. So they'll generally give sort of 3 attempts, and if they don't get that person back, it might be that there's no further contact, because we can't keep phoning people if they're not answering their phones back to us and that as well, which does happen, but it's sometimes because people don't want to engage with us. But generally we will try and get in touch with you, depending on the grade and the call, within a couple of days if we can. But as I said, all calls are graded for threat, risk and harm. So the higher the threat and risk and harm, then obviously it'll get graded higher, and then the response should be quicker than that as well.
Thank you for that. Members, have you got questions? Councillor McLean?
Okay, thank you, Chair. And thanks for your report, and thank you for coming to our last ward business meeting. And I probably asked you quite a lot of questions there, but maybe just to highlight a couple, which is a big concern to many in our communities, which you touched on, which is road safety and road crime. And on page 8, one of the issues, well, one of your comments later on it is about working alongside road safety partners such as the DVLA, SEPA and trading standards during Pacific Days of Action. And we have had that in the past in our ward, but it was a number of years ago. And I think that, you know, going along to our community councils, the number of untaxed vehicles or antisocial behaviour caused by vehicles that are not roadworthy being left on our streets or on our pavements is a big issue. And I wonder, how do we go about having one of these action days, and who leads on it? Is it environmental health? Is it council? Are you just one of the partners involved in that? Because I really do think that, you know, throughout our ward, there's a number of areas that also get raised at the Safer Ross meetings about issues with cars, either people working on them or just leaving them, and you know, it's a blight on our area. So I wondered if you could maybe update us on that. On other items I've raised before about road safety, which is raised continually not only by Conin Bridge Community Council but also by Ferrintosh Community Councils, is our junctions onto the A835. And the main problems are on the B9163 leaving Conin and Corntown, and the difficulty of cars. And Chair, you've also had a family member who's been injured in an accident there, I know. But an awful lot of the accidents are minor, according to the statistics, but it is having a big impact. Some of it is drivers' ability to see, especially this time of year when the sun, like today, is very low. And I wondered what input you have. I know that at Mulbui Junction, which is the next one up, the B9169, there's also been a number of accidents there, because the speed of the traffic is part of the issue, and the staggered junctions. Transport Scotland, when we have planning applications, they don't seem to respond or have input into them. I don't know if that's because they feel that they will then have to pay towards making these improvements, but more and more in Maryborough and Conin, people are going down to the Maryborough roundabout because they do not feel it's safe to cross at this junction. And this has been raised for over 15, 16 years, and there has been little improvement to these junctions. And I wondered, what input does your team or the road traffic team have to inform the statistics and you know, gets the data for us to be able to improve the junction, or for the community to be able to advocate to get this junction improved, because there's been little progress so far, and there might not be much that you can do. On the antisocial behaviour and violence, drugs have a big input and into that increase. And I agree with what Councillor Patterson said about the county lines. The more we have information, the more that's known about the cocooning and how vulnerable people's properties are being taken over, and the more that the public inform the council and inform the police, that jigsaw will get completed much quicker, so that action can be taken. Because I think in Highland we are very welcoming, and that we trust people. And at the last even community council in Coninbridge, the chair had told people to start locking their doors, because in Highland many of us leave them open because of this opportunity for people to feed their habit. They are taking risks and going into people's houses. So there's a few other issues, but I'll leave my colleague Councillor Kennedy to raise them. Thank you.
Okay, David, do you want to answer these? Because there are quite a few questions there, and I would thank Councillor McLean for taking up the junction, because that is an ongoing just accident trap. I mean, the amount of accidents that are not reported that, you know, happen, and it's really a big concern for the people all over, because many people use that. I drive through Maryborough and Conan because it's so unsafe. So I'll let you answer these questions from Councillor McLean before I go over to Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, so in relation to sort of road layouts, junctions, staggered junctions, and that, generally that'll be down to the roads authority or the councils that will plan that. We do get consultation emails regarding if there's going to be a change in speed limits or traffic calming measures, and that we will get asked for an opinion, which we will always obviously give. And that also goes to the road traffic inspector, who obviously has a lot more knowledge of everything that's going on across the area in terms of road traffic offences, etc., and that as well. You mentioned about, I think, abandoned vehicles on roads and that. Abandoned vehicles actually come under the council. So if we get notification of an abandoned vehicle on the road or that, we will get in touch with the council, and then obviously they've got to wait. I think off the top of my head, it's 28 days from sort of that vehicle being seen. And if it's still there, then it can obviously be removed and that as well. So just in terms of accidents or hotspots, road traffic have patrol plans that they put in place based on previous year's figures in terms of where the accidents have occurred. So we've got certain areas in the north where there's normally quite a lot of accidents, so they will get a lot of attention because we need to try and obviously prevent them from happening. So if those roads and, you know, the 835, the B9163, etc., are highlighted, there will be patrols of road traffic officers at that time and that as well. Obviously, we can't control whether if the sun is low and obviously people are driving and it affects their visibility and that as well, which should come down to the driving standards in terms of if they're not sure, they should never take that chance of pulling out a junction. You obviously have to wait for it to be clear on that as well. So, but if you have certain issues that you want to highlight, if there's antisocial behaviour going on, just, you know, I think you've got Inspector Daniel Jack's email. Give Inspector Jack an email, because again, we can put it into our local patrol plans to have that area sort of patrolled by response officers. I can't say it's going to happen all the time because obviously we've got calls and that to attend to, but unless we know about an issue, we can't address it, and we'd rather we did know about an issue so we can put measures in place to try and reduce that and that as well. In terms of your antisocial behaviour violence, yes, drugs and alcohol have obviously an impact on people's behaviour, and sometimes without alcohol and drugs it could be perfectly acceptable, upstanding member of the society, but when they take alcohol and drugs it changes them. again, always phone us if there's a certain area that's causing an issue, you know, where people are congregating. Let us know as well, because we can put in our local patrol plans. But if we don't know about the issue, then we can't obviously address it in that as well. Personally, I would just always advise and give the advice that lock your doors. And it's just a society now that we're in. Society's changed a lot over the years. And if you lock your doors, at least it's an initial deterrent for anyone who is trying it. Unfortunately, there are people that do try that. The numbers for the area are low. We do live in a very safe area, but there will be the occasional person that might try a door handle or a vehicle. And if a vehicle is left insecure, they may go in that as well. So the advice would be always lock your doors and always lock your vehicles in that as well, because it's just that initial deterrent to stop people from doing that. But again, if there's somebody going around the area who looks suspicious, you can phone it in on that as well, and we will obviously try and look into that as well. So hopefully that answers some of your questions for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Kennedy?
Thank you.
Questions?
David, I'm not going to go on about some of the things that Councillor Patterson and Councillor McCain have gone on about. You know, I read these reports. I think it's a lot of work that you put into. I think that you can put into it that make things maybe look slightly better than they are. I ask myself who actually reads these reports. Yeah. You've mentioned vulnerable people, and some of the things that you've said about vulnerable people is maybe the people who've been affected by taking drugs and things like that, which I accept. But what is more concerning for me is the people who have maybe gone down this line, and it quite often then goes to feed that habit. They then start dealing, which happens all the time in Dingwall. It's happening. You know, there was some horrific ones in Dingwall last year. Yeah, these aren't the vulnerable people. They turn the communities into vulnerable communities. They're the real. There's my concern. Not just the police, and on the council side with housing and things like that. People coming to report these things, which when we ever ask questions, report it. Yeah, you are asking very vulnerable people to make reports about maybe people that they're living next door. Yeah, they're scared to come out of the houses. Yeah, you know. Past, yeah, I've got a police career part of it, yeah. So I'm sure you. How scary is it to face down somebody who's crazed out of the head with drugs? Yeah, it's very scary, isn't it? Yeah. If you've experienced it, you know it is. I've experienced. I know how scary. But we're expecting older people to say things about these idiots, yeah. And the reply, not just from the police, but from the council, unless it's reported, there's nothing we can do. Yeah. So I really think if something is said through crime scoppers or anything like that, people are saying these things to the police. Yeah, because they want, you know, they want safer communities. That's where you need to, you know, do a little bit more investigation and everything yourselves, because it comes down to. My next point that I'm going to come in, yeah. How many community officers have we got working around here? Very, very few. I mean, I've actually put in here, you know, in this report that you put to us every 3 months and things like that. I'd far rather know how many officers we've actually got, not road policing, but actual officers on the ground in your command area today. And it'd be absolutely scary of how very few that we actually do, that you've got to work with. And I take my hat off to the police that, you know, you're trying to protect the public and you really haven't got the staff. Now, I every time that I get any that opportunity to say anything at council and everything like that, I think we need to be. walloping the Scottish government because of your cutbacks. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. Yeah, I think that one of the best things I've seen recently, and I mentioned something like this to your predecessor, Callum Smith, yeah, and he kind of looked at me in a strange way, was when I saw in the Bewley notice board that you'd had some officers out with the kids showing them about speeding and things like that, yeah. People notice this. I mean, we did something 2 or 3 years ago when the lollipop lady was off sick up at Dingwall Primary, and I asked the garage sergeant if you could get any officers up and everything like that. It went down tremendously wrong. Well, you know, at the end of the day, you know, and it's just come from when the anniversary of what Robert Peel started the first police force, yeah, and it was, you know, prevention's better than detection, and we just don't have enough of going back to the very basics of policing, of prevention going on, yeah. And I think that a lot of that comes through the community councils and things like that. They would like to see more police officers walking up and down Dingwall High Street, walking down, you know, just before Christmas, the Christmas lights turn on. 2 officers came, absolutely fantastic event. I was sorry that I missed it and everything like that, but it went down really well. And there's been lots of comments saying it was great we actually have got some police officers, yeah. You know, there's far too much, you know, you're noticeable by not being there. So I think just a bit more proactive policing, community policing around the area. That's what I would like to see, and I think that's what a lot of the communities would like as well.
Thank you for that, Councillor. And can I add on to it, because theft by shoplifting, because that was really bad for quite a while, and it seems to have quietened, but I'm not sure. And also, you've got written here that this operation deployed plainclothes police officers. Do we have them as well, or is that just in Inverness? Because I don't think, and it's very difficult for people who don't want to get involved. They see it happening when they're out shopping, and they don't want to say anything because they're frightened, you know. So, and I don't know if Councillor McLean wants to come in, so I'll take her in for her question as well.
Yeah, thank you. And
Thank you,
I know this is David's first time here, but I'm sure we'll see a lot more of him. But I think what you've both said is right, is that people have stopped reporting crime because they feel that it's not actually going to be investigated. And when you asked earlier on about seeing police, I had written down prioritising resources. And if you have a very finite amount of resources, you have to go to the most serious issues, I would say. But community policing is a priority for our communities. They want to know, they want to make contact with somebody that they can just speak to, and that has disappeared to a great extent. And having reports to committee, to community councils, doesn't help. You know, well, it helps slightly, and they know what's going on, but they don't feel a connection, the same connection as they used to have, as more and more police stations close down as well. And there is so few officers there. So, and I don't think that's something that David can sort out, but I'm sure he will feed it back.
Thank you, Councillor McLean. Over to you, David.
Yeah, Councillor Kennedy, you have quite a lot of vulnerable people in the area, and yeah, I agree with you. People on drink drugs are scary people to deal with. I go back to if we don't know about the issue, we can't obviously put stuff in place, and it might not be them. You mentioned Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers are a good way to report information. But those vulnerable people probably have other people coming in to provide them with support in that as well. They can feed in information to us in that as well. So it doesn't always come from the individual mostly affected by these instances. Yes, I would love to have more officers patrolling the street, walking in. We do have, as I say, patrol plans where we will ask them more so weekend, Friday, Saturday nights to try and get in about the licensed premises, be more visible in that as well. We have had recent instances where there's been sort of increased vandalism in that as well. We will put in that in our patrol plan to have more visibility in that area and to try and deter it and detect who's responsible. But it's been mentioned as well, we only have a finite resource. I don't have the authority to say I want, you know, this and that. Yes, I would gladly take more officers, and so would everywhere in Scotland and that as well. But we work with what we have, and we try and address the issues that we have, and where there's an ongoing issue, that'll get addressed, and then obviously it may move on when we do that and that as well. But yeah, traditional policing, officers on the street, engaging with the community is something that they all want to be involved in. But one call, depending, can take a whole shift for officers and that as well. So in terms of the way things used to be in policing to where they are now, the support that we given to victims of crime and that as well, there's a lot more of that ongoing, but calls can take quite a lot of time, and obviously they are graded, and the immediate ones are given a higher priority in that as well. But if somebody reports a crime, I would like to believe that we will have contact with them at some point in that as well. So with regards theft by shopliftings, we engage with the premises, the business premises. I think all your business premises that have had a high number of theft by shopliftings have had a prevention and intervention officer go in, and they will go through and provide advice. But the advice we provide doesn't always tally up with how to best promote a product for sales. We might say you want to put it back in the shop, but they might want it at the front of the shop because they get more sales in that as well. So as much as we give advice, the retailers don't have to take it. And if they don't take it, then obviously it's not obviously making the premises a wee bit more target hardened to prevent that type of crime. As I said, a lot of the shopliftings, there are a few people who commit a lot of them. We will work with the shops, we will work with the courts, we'll work with, again, housing and that as well, if there's vulnerabilities, to try and A, offer support, but B, detect them and get them in front of a court so they can be dealt with accordingly. And if we can put restrictions in place, we will do that as well. So it's an ongoing sort of battle that we have. Yes, I think people might be a wee bit disillusioned when they report a crime. It can take, you know, as I said, 48, 72 hours to get contact. But as I said, there will be some contact made with that individual, and obviously we will try and do our best to get around to that and that as well. So
thank you very much, David. Members, are you happy with your responses? Okay, so you're asked to note the progress made against the objectives set within the Highland Council Policing Plan 2023-2026. So are you noting? Thank you very much. And thank you very much, David. That was very thorough and done with a smile.
thanks for your time.
And you're welcome to stay if you want, but I'm sure you've got more important things to do. So
I have yeah, I did walk here, so but no, thank you for your time.
no, thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, Ian. Good morning. Now, before we start, I'm going to hand over to our officer because Councillor Kennedy did declare of interest that he may have to leave the room. So the officer's going to explain it.
Thank you, Chair. It was in regard to Sean's declaration of interest for if we were going to talk about Hill Street. If you declared an interest and left the room, that would leave the meeting not quorate. So I'm going to ask if we can refrain from discussing Hill Street in particular, and you could take it to the next board business meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And the committee is invited to approve the rolling programme of capital schemes as listed in Appendix 2 of the report, and note the area budget will be available after the February 2026 Economy and Infrastructure Committee. So now I'll hand it over to Ian, who's going to take us through his report. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. So this is the Roads Capital Programme for 26-27 for Dingwall and Seaforth area. Would you like me to go through the report in detail, or shall we skip to the list of schemes? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So the budget allocation for Dingwall and Seaforth is around just over the £500,000 mark. That might go up, it might go down slightly depending on underspends or overspends from last year. And it's also obviously going to be the actual baseline budget has to be confirmed, as we discussed earlier. So, unlike previous years, there is no red line. This is a multi-year programme. It will be added to in the future through discussions at the ward business meeting and then ratified at the future committee. There's more schemes on this list than there is available budget. So I think we need to try to capture all the roads in Dingwall and Seaforth that need capital work, and that will hopefully give a more overall approach as to the extent of the programmes in the years to come. One of the schemes that we found in the previous years was Blakemore Road, the northern leg, and I think it was last year we did a bit of overlay on the southern leg, but this section again needs work, and it's running from, I think it was the last house on the road, Silver Birches, down to the A9 junction, 754 metres, and the estimated cost is a shade over £92,000. North Keswick, this was from the C1039 from Millbank through to Gargison Junction. The first section is the campsite to Redcastle. We hope to revisit this scheme and try to make savings on it. It's currently sitting at over £500,000 to overlay that entire section. I may need to have to subdivide that into smaller sections to make it more deliverable. The second section is from Redcastle through to the A32 junction, and that's coming in as a bit over £195,000. Both of these schemes have been sitting below the red line in previous committee reports, and I'm glad to see that they're now nearing the top of the list. We would like to do surface dressing this year. To bring the surface dressing train up, we need a minimum number of schemes to make it viable. And I'm looking at continuing where we left off in the previous year on the A862. That's from the just south of the garage to Riverford Crescent, £42,000 a kilometre of road surface dressed. Similarly, we plan to surface dress the A834 from the cemetery to Descartes Road Junction, 2.7 kilometres, coming in at around £58,000. And the next two roads we would also like to surface dress. These have been sitting here for some time: Millbank Road and Chestnut Road. We plan to surface dress the whole road, and that would come in as £28,000 and £21,000 respectively. Moving further down the list, we've got at North Keswick, we've got the C1039. This was the third phase from the burn at the Ward 9 boundary to the campsite. A kilometre of road, £124,000. Muir of Ord, we've got the U2975. This is the Corrie Road. There's various sites on that. This is inlay patching. We're looking at approximately £50,000 for that. Conan Bridge, there's a section of Cellar Place which is particularly poor from the car park junction at the housing scheme, heading further inland, further away from the main road. 136 metres, and that's going to be in the region of £40,000. Braes of Conan patching, I've allowed £56,000 for that. Again, it's various sites. We've got some high street patching in the pedestrian area. Although it's a fairly small sum, £5,000, if councillors are minded, we could prioritise that higher up the list. We have Woodlands Road, which again needs inlay work at £82,500. Canary Avenue at £81,500. And in Conan Bridge, we've got Lennox Road at £123,000. In Muir of Ord, we've got Ord Road, which is in a particularly poor condition. We would like to overlay the road, £66,500. There was the housing estate that comes off that, the inlay, the roads failed. The whole road, we're looking at about £76,500 for that. Dingwall, sorry, councillors, we'll maybe skip that one. Again, in Dingwall, we've got the U4485 Park Road. We look to inlay that, and I appreciate this is a cul-de-sac, and that's why it's quite far down the list, £57,000. And the Highfield Road, U3142 at Muir of Ord, This is a rural road, but it's in pretty poor condition. We were looking to do about 400 metres at £49,000. I'm happy to discuss the priority of these schemes, and as I said earlier, there will be more schemes added to this programme at the bottom for future discussion at board business meetings and approval at committee. And I'd be pleased to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ian. That was very thorough. And, you know, every road that's on that list needs to get done. But obviously we don't have enough funding for it. But maybe we can live in hope, because, you know, they're not on that list unless they're desperately needing done. And it's a long list. And it's very difficult to say which is more important.
As
You
we
know,
moved,
that's the hardest thing.
as we moved from having an annual programme with a red line and a few schemes at the bottom, we're now moving to a multi-year programme, and I can almost guarantee that there will be more schemes added to this, all of them needing funding, Councillor. It's very much a question of trying to find a balance as to where to invest the money. But it's, as a bit of an analogy, it's like standing at 20 paces from a barn door with a shotgun. You know, whatever decisions we make today, there will be improvements to the road network and to the road users.
Thank you for that very much. Yeah. Councillor McLean, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you for that, Ian. I suppose it's like extremely disappointing that many of the schemes that are requiring we don't have the funding for. So can I ask, Ian, how much funding is required just for a standstill on the roads that we have for Dingwall and Seaforth? I know you've got the whole Ross and Cromarty, and you say like 3.5 million plus for Ross and Cromarty, and our allocation is 500,000. I mean, every one of us could tell you roads that are badly needing done. In fact, when you're walking around Dingwall, you can see it yourself. And how much of the budget that we have for capital is for pavement improvements? None, I think, because that's another issue that's raised with us a lot, especially with many of our residents with mobility issues. How many of last year's schemes have not been completed, either because we ran out of time with the weather or because we just didn't have the capacity to do that? And will they be done first? I think you kind of touched on that. And have you had a conversation with housing services regarding some of the schemes you mentioned? There's still housing tenants within that, and have you discussed with them about any of the funding that they have, especially given their 8% increase in rent that was agreed last month on environmental improvements, which includes roads, garage areas and that. I don't think that, I mean, it's a bit like Solomon's choice here. You know, no matter what you pick, there's going to be roads that are just as bad that are not going to be done in the next financial year. I mean, I find it very frustrating when we announce that we've got all this extra money for roads, and I know you say you won't know until later this month, and then we see that we've got hardly any money in our area. So that's kind of, I won't say any more, thank you.
Yes.
You want to answer?
Certainly.
What you can.
Yes. Can I come back to the councillors with an approximate cost to fix the roads in Dingwall and Seaforth? It will be approximate because it probably won't include surface dressing, but and it also relies on a fairly basic analysis. But I don't think we need it to the nearest pound, shillings and pence. Yeah, I can come back to you on that. Last year there were no schemes I can recollect that were on footways. The capital budget covers all elements, footways, roads. It also has an element for bridges and other structures such as cattle grids and those large signs that you see. I've tried to focus in on roads because that might to reduce the risk of accidents. But I fully appreciate that if you're a pedestrian and you trip because the footway hasn't been maintained, then you may end up with more severe injuries than you might do if you were in a minor accident in a car. As I said earlier, it is a balance. I can't recall any schemes off the top of my head that weren't completed last year. Sorry? I'll come back to you on that. Okay. And it might look the same when you've got a piece of road that's funded from the capital programme, the capital budget, right next to a piece of road that's maintained by the housing service. Where we are, for instance, like Chestnut Road, we don't maintain typically the car parking areas, so we can go to the housing service, and we have done in the past, to say we are surface dressing this. Do you want to fund your areas? And we can do them at the same time. But sometimes the funding's there, sometimes it isn't. And it is difficult to choose which schemes to promote, which schemes to leave or to defer. I quite often, when I put together the programme, I quite often think about it in terms of a sliding scale. At one end, which road do you invest your money into to get the most economic benefit in terms of it carries the most traffic, it's maybe the cheapest option, cheapest treatment. But at the other end of the scale, you've got things like is it Ordwood, which are I can't remember the other one in Dingwall. Oh, it's I can't see it. There was yes, Woodlands Road, Kennedy Avenue. They're pretty badly broken up. They service quite a few houses, so there's always that. But they're low speed, and you've always got to try to balance when you're selecting schemes the most, if you like, the most economic benefit against the community benefit. And it is a very difficult job, and you're always trying to, you do struggle to find that balance.
Thank you for that, Ian. I can understand being roads operation manager is a very difficult job. and because every road on that list is in really bad condition,
Yeah.
and we need to do something about it, but there isn't enough money. Did you want to come in?
Absolutely, it's very kind of you.
Okay.
Yeah. Ian, you've got one about Ord Road. Whereabouts is that? Is that the part of Ord Road that's kind of going round the back of the showground or anything like that? I mean,
No,
No.
I think that was the
The
one
three
that
of
runs
them.
from the distillery
Yeah.
through to the new houses. It's about 545 meters in length. It's opposite the distillery. It's a single lane road. It's I believe there's a weight limit on
Yeah.
it.
We did put a weight restriction on it a number of years ago
Yes.
because a number of the distillery lorries were coming through that
Yeah.
road and creating
And
big potholes.
Yeah, it's just it's at the end of its life. So what we're trying to do is put an overlay on that, stiffen it up. We put 40 mil overlay will strengthen the road's capacity to carry traffic. Surface dressing basically maintains what you've got. Our A-class roads are probably in a better condition than some of the minor roads. So by surface dressing our A-class roads at typically £7 to maybe £10 a square metre, it's better value for money than overlaying them at 25, maybe 30 pounds a square metre.
okay, thanks for that. It's just I Google mapped it, and the Google Maps are not quite getting it right. What else have I put down? When you say you might do something like Millbank and Chestnut and things like that, but then not the parking spaces and things like that, and then that housing services might come into that. I'd like to be kept up to date if housing say no. I mean, especially that they're wanting to put 8% on the rent and things like that, and that you know what's the point of you know making a roadway going in and then making the parking terrible. I mean, you know, talk about putting the cart before the horse. So you know, I'd like to know if housing suddenly say no, we're not going to give you any money for that. You've got the high street here for £5,000 of patching, and that the whole of the high street, the protection area of the high street needs done. No, just a couple of patches. I mean, it's in a terrible state of. I mean, I was on the Laura yet again about another culvert outside Sue Ryder's shop that was all up last week. But knowing Laura, she did say she was going to put somebody to have a look at it. You know, when we're talking about the budgets and things like that, I always get very dismayed of how much Dingwall and Seaforth gets. You know, of 500,000. You know, it sounds a lot of money, but really, what you're talking about, you know, it's a drop in the ocean and things like that. You know, considering that the Dingwall and Seaforth is in the top half dozen populated wards in the whole of the council, the Highland Council, and things like that. That common sense says that when you've got that many people, that our roads are going to get used a lot more than a lot of other wards and things like that. And I listened to what you said about Kennedy Avenue and things like that. You know, people are paying the council tax and everything up there. You know, and I understand about, you know, a slow moving road and things like that. They're still entitled to have the roads looking reasonable to come out. I just find that, you know, that you know, the allocation of some of the funds, you know, considering, yes, we're small, but we've got a huge population, and Dingwall and Seaforth's got a big heart. We should be certainly from the councillors' points of view. I'm always going to support Dingwall and Seaforth and try and get as much for Dingwall and Seaforth as I can. So managed to do everything, get on top of the soapbox and everything there. But thank you for your report, Ian.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we'll all fight for the area of Dingwall and Seaforth. That's what we were elected for. But we can only work with the funds that we've got. And, you know, I think that Ian has tried his best. It's not an easy job, because when you do a job, you really should have enough. That's your tool, is to have enough money to cover all what you would like to have done that needs to be done. But you're asked to approve the rolling programme as listed. Do you agree to that?
Before we do that, Council Chair, I'm not trying to decry anything about, about the money side and things like that. All I'm saying is, considering the amount of population, we should really have more. So, as much as I might argue with Mr. McCreeve quite often and things like that, I am the same as you. Yeah, I wouldn't want his job. I have bad enough sleeps as it is without having to think about the roads. So, so I just want to make that clear. It's just I feel we should be getting more money for the amount of people who live in there. But what you said, I'm quite happy to note all that report.
And I have to say, I agree with you. We need more money, and I do agree with you. And the other thing is that you have to note that the area budget will be available after February 2026. Right? Okay, thank you. Angela, did you want to come back with something?
If that's okay, I mean, I agree with what's in the report. I mean, I think that Ian is the qualified road engineer and knows which roads are the worst to be done. And I would absolutely go with his recommendations. But I wanted to thank Ian's team for some of the support over what BT Openreach have been doing, their subcontractors within the ward over the last few weeks. The chaos that they've caused, between roads and lighting in Maryborough, Conan, Dingwall, is, they've just not, they don't seem to appreciate the upheaval their work has caused and the amount of chaos. I mean, it was chaos, part of what they had done, cutting off lights to the, to Proby Street and Wrightfield Park, cutting off the actual internet connections in Academy Crescent, Academy Gardens and Dingwall. And, I just felt they were just unprofessional and really unhelpful. The traffic was awful, but when I eventually did get to speak to someone from Openreach, they have had to come back and redo some of the work. But if it wasn't for, the council staff in the first place, they've had a lot of extra work to do. And if only Openreach, while they may say they can go in without actually speaking to council staff, I just feel that the processes for that has not been followed properly. And I would have expected an apology from BT Openreach, the way they've dealt with the Highlands, in particular our ward, over the last few weeks. And I want to thank Ian and his team. Thank you.
Yeah, would agree with you. Yeah, we'll pass that on. But we often end up picking up the pieces, or you pick up the pieces with your staff, and we're very grateful. So thank you. Thank you for taking that up, Angela. Yeah, you're welcome to stay, but I'm sure
I think I've got a few more roads just to look at.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, members, and now we're on to item 5 and 6, because it's the same gentleman that's, he's the repairs management, and it's housing repairs performance report. So he is online. Is he? Oh,
Morning,
hi.
members, and good morning, Chair. How you doing?
Thank you very
Hope you're-
much. Do you want
hope
to
you're
take
all-
us through?
Yeah, I'll take
The
you through the report.
report.
I hope
Thank
you're
you.
all well today. So I'm here to deliver the housing repairs and capital report from 1st of April 25 to the 31st of December 2025. If I can just draw your attention to section 6, which is the repairs performance report. So 6.3 displays the average length of time taken to complete emergency repairs, and this is measured in hours, and the target time is 12 hours. Dingwall and Seaforth currently we're achieving this in 3.9 hours, which is absolutely fantastic. That's a fantastic response. If we can move down to section 6.6, which is the average length of time taken to complete non-emergency repairs. Now this is measured in days. The target time is 8.9 days, and we're sitting just slightly above that on Dingwall and Seaforth at 9 days to complete non-emergency repairs, but still below the national average of 9.1. Moving down to the average relet times at section 7.2, the target time is in days, and that's 55.6 days. In Dingwall and Seaforth, we are just slightly above that again at 57 days, which is slightly higher, but it's still quite reasonable in regards to the target. Moving on to the capital programme in section 8. 8.1 just outlines the priorities that were set at the start of 2022 to 2027, which is to focus on replacement of key building components, energy efficiency in regards to heating systems and energy efficiency improvements, the delivery of aids and adaptations, and the support of the local buildings maintenance teams to address component failures. The capital delivery programme from 22 to 27 has delivered some significant improvements. We've listed down some of those projects, all the projects in 22 to 27 to date below. As you can see, there has been 4 completed programmes to date, with 1 programme on site for rewiring, and we've got a windows and doors investment plan in the planning stage for the 26 programme. Now, there has been strong delivery within 22 to 27, and much of the allocated budget for the Dingwall and Seaforth area has been put towards these above projects, but we will obviously be reviewing what remaining budget will be available to be spent in 2026 to 27 and identifying priorities to ensure that upgrades go ahead. Section 8.3, we've outlined the DEC programme. This has been run by our climate energy team on our behalf. So our housing investment team has worked closely with the climate and energy team to identify opportunities for external funding across the Highlands. This has been a collaborative approach, and it's been very successful to date. Through Eco4 funding, properties across the Highlands have received fully funded energy efficiency measures. The external investment has helped offset pressures on the local planned capital budgets. However, the programme is currently paused while we await a review of the impact of the national government's decision to remove support for eco-funding. But despite this, we remain committed to working with contractors and partners to try and identify alternative funding streams and continue delivering improvements where possible. 8.4 covers our one-off capital programme. Local teams continue to deliver one-off capital works to address component failures. Our current budget allocations for Dingwall and Seaforth are being managed effectively to meet local demand. Teams actively manage and monitor spend against budgets, and if necessary, they will implement measures to minimise the financial impact. This may include reprofiling underspend from other one-off budget lines, utilising contingency funds, or restricting replacements to extreme failure cases only. Environmental capital projects in 8.5. Unfortunately, members, I don't have a detailed update due to current resource constraints within the local team. An update was not provided in time for this report. Of projects proposed under the environmental capital report, the team will continue to work closely with members at board businesses to identify projects to progress, but unfortunately I don't have an update on that right now. I would, however, say that if appropriate projects can't be identified, it is a recommendation that the budgets be reprofiled to support essential one-off capital delivery within the areas, things like heating failures, windows and doors failures, where there may not be sufficient budget lines to support this in the local area. 8.6, we're just directing you towards Appendix 1, which demonstrates what's been delivered in the area in 2025. I'm happy to take any questions on this section of the report.
Thank you very much, Graham. That was very good. Just a couple of small comments, really, because on 6.7, the average completion time for non-emergency repairs in Dingwall and Seaforth, and also for the ones that are urgent. The feedback that I get from quite a few of the people is that it's very good, and officers that come to their houses are really professional and very helpful. So I want to pass that on. And the other one is 7.2, that voids properties in Dingwall and Seaforth. People, you know, phone up and say this house has been empty for, nobody's been in it for months and months and that, and we don't have a reply for them because probably it's because of a reason. And sometimes we do find out, but it seems to happen quite a bit. Is there any way that we could be known of houses that are for some reason not being let? Because people say, I've been waiting for ages and I'm not getting a house, and there's one empty lying there, and it really is quite a difficult one to respond to them. So that is just a couple of little questions I want.
Well, I'll just come back to you on that. So firstly, thank you very much. Positive feedback is absolutely always welcome. It's rare that you get it. It's much easier to provide negative feedback. It's very rare we get positive feedback, so it's very welcome. And I'll pass that on to the local teams who are doing such a good job to keep emergency repairs times down. In regards to voids lying empty, there could be a whole host of reasons to that. Again, I'll pass that comment on to the local teams to perhaps bring to board business meetings. But some things could be an instance of abandonment. It does take a time for properties that have been abandoned to eventually go through the process ensuring that it has been abandoned. So a property could seem like it's sitting empty for a while. Other things could be the level of repairs required, the time taken to obtain materials. There could be structural defects, again, that need a little bit more investigation before works go ahead. So there are a few things that can contribute to a property lying void a little bit longer. But the teams do work really hard to try and put properties back onto circulation as quickly as possible. But it is a comment I'll pass back to the local teams, and perhaps they can address that a little bit more in detail at a ward business meeting in the future.
Okay, thank you for that, Graham. Councillors, have you got questions? Councillor McLean?
Yeah, thank you, Graham, for your report. A couple of questions for me. And I think you might have kind of touched on it slightly. So I think it's really good that we're doing well on the emergency repairs, which are done in-house in most cases, I think. Yeah. And the 9 days for the non-emergency repairs, but is it the same group of staff that are dealing with the void properties and having to repair that? Because given that much of it is now done in-house, as well as there's times when we have to get some subcontractors in, during this 57 days, we're not getting any rent for the property either. Is that costed or factored into the overall cost of the delay and the work being done in-house rather than getting a contractor in? We may be losing on the 8.3, the D&C programme, there has been a lot of really good work in those houses that have had new windows and doors, have noticed a marked improvement in their energy consumption and their bills. And in it, you've said that in the third paragraph, the programme is currently on pause while we await a review of the impact of the government's decision to remove support for eco-funding. Highland Council did really well, you know, getting extra money to do a lot of the replacement doors and windows that we talked about, and also the solar panels, and it's made a big improvement. When do you think that would be known about whether they're going to go ahead? Is that going to be within this Parliament or the next Parliament, given that we're so close to an election? And on the 8.5, the environmental capital projects, where you say that there's only been 28,000 against a budget of 66. I take it this is right, your estate and the environmental projects as we as local councillors and the local tenants associations and that we're involved in, or if not, you know, I hope you clarify that for me, because you say that the budget would be reprofiled to support essential component investments within the within properties, but given that because we were able to get so many millions of pounds from the eco funding, there was I think it was a £2.6 million underspend in capital programme. So I think you've got enough money there to keep the capital programme going. So can you clarify whether this 66,000 and how is the percentage of the council rents, how is this made up for our area? Is it on the number of council houses? I probably should know this, but I've forgotten. In our area, or is it on a Ross and Cromarty area basis, which most of the budgets seem to be, and then they're appropriated down to each of the ward areas? Thank you.
Hi, I'll try and come back as best I can there. So in regards to the voice team, I don't directly manage the team in the area. However, on speaking to the local managers, I do believe that the voice team was recently formed. And I do think that, yes, if there's a high presence of emergency repairs required, there may be an impact on voice delivery. But I do know that the voice team are supplemented again by where required external contractor resources to try and bring down times. But again, that's on a needs only capacity. In regards to eco funding, so the eco funding programme, so the DTC programme primarily delivered insulation, like cavity insulation, heat pumps, air source heat pumps and solar panels. It didn't really have any involvement with windows with this funding at the moment, but it's fantastic to hear that obviously upgrades in windows and heat pumps and solars are having such an improvement across our homes. The review of eco-funding, so the British government removed support for eco-funding, and instead they are reviewing the Warm Homes Plan, which is supposed to be getting implemented. I'm not exactly sure in the timelines. My understanding is that there's £15 billion set to be split between the three nations. Scotland will get their allocation, but until such time there's been information coming from Scottish Government, we won't exactly know what that's going to look like and if that's going to be in the same manner as eco, which the funding goes to contractors and then the contractors are able to bring that to the table, or if there'll be we just don't know how that's exactly going to be mapped out at this time. But our colleagues in Climate and Energy are in constant communication with Scottish Government, and hopefully once there is an update we'll be able to come back to us on that. In respect to environmental capital, you mentioned some figures there which I don't have in front of me, so I wouldn't like to comment. The environmental capital is the budget that's set aside for ward members to do estate walkarounds and identify things that they would like to see improvements in. Sometimes there's a little bit of confusion over what is capital and what is not. Quite often there's a little bit of debate over, for instance, say weed killing, that would be a revenue expense, not a capital expense. Capital expense is usually investment in assets, so that could be, for instance, re-rendering a property and putting in windows, things that are tangible assets and improve the property. In regards to how the budgets are allocated, so the way that this 5-year programme was allocated was using the major repairs allowance. So that is properties into specific age bands and sizes, 1, 2, 3, 4-bedroom houses, and built within certain decades, and then it's given a multiplier, and then basically that's aggregated to how many properties in each local area. So that's how the budget is kind of been formulated. Moving forward, we are obviously reviewing that approach as we look to, we're coming towards the end of the 22 to 27 cycle, so we're in the process of mapping out what the 27 and beyond will look like. In regards to the capital and the way the 8% rent increase will mean, unfortunately, I don't have the breakdown of that. We would have to ask some of our colleagues in finance to give us a more finite breakdown of how that impacts. But in regards to the capital, that's all borrowings. So in essence, anything we borrow has a longer term revenue impact because borrowings is paid back through revenue. So the interest charges will obviously affect revenue further on down the line. So it is essential, obviously, we try and spend this money. But in regards to the impact of eco, so the eco funding in general, their ability to deliver, well, you mentioned savings. The one issue we've got is the report in the property and housing will only show you what's been spent to date, but it doesn't show you what's been committed to date. So when I've outlined the projects above, for instance, the ones that are on site or the ones that are in planning, those don't show as a spend, but we have got funds committed towards those, so they're not available. But I understand that obviously the Property and Housing Committee report will pull through just what's been spent to date. But obviously, if we've committed it, we don't have that available to spend. So I just want to assure you that the projects that are sitting there waiting to be delivered, that money has to be ring-fenced for those projects, and we don't just have it available to spend. It isn't additionality in that sense. It's money sitting waiting to deliver vital upgrades to properties. I'm hoping that's answered your questions. Apologies if it's not. I'm happy to come back on any of it.
No, that's okay. I'm on the Housing and Property Committee, so that's why I'm aware of the £2.6 million underspend that won't be spent this year, but goes carried forward to the next financial year. But I would say that as one of the local members, I don't think I've been asked about the environmental projects. Maybe the chair will know.
Yeah, well, as I say, it's not myself that directly manages that. It is the local team. So I'll feed that back to the principal repairs officer in the area, and hopefully they can come along to the next ward business meeting or one in the future to discuss the environmental capital budgets with you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kennedy, do you want? Right, in that case, can we note the information provided on the housing performance? Okay, thank you. So now we're on to item 6, garage rents. So do you want to take us through it? And then we'll ask you questions.
Yeah, I will do my best. Apologies, members. First time I'm delivering the garage rents report, so I do apologise if I if I get it slightly incorrect in regards to how it normally is delivered. But in essence, section 5 of the garage rent report gives a little bit of background in regards to developing local priorities for garage and garage sites held under the housing revenue account. Section 6.1 is the current income relating to garages and garage sites. So you may see in section 6.1 that we have 239 garages in Ward 8 and 8 garage sites, and the total annual rent for these is £158,401. In 6.2 we do have a piece here about the occupancy levels of garages and garage sites in the areas. So I'll draw your attention to 195 garages that are occupied with 44 that are void, 7 garage sites that are occupied and 1 is void. Moving forward, I'll just take it 6.3, which kind of highlights the current rent levels. So council tenants, currently it's £9.62 per week, and garage sites is £1.12, and does it have a bit there for non-council tenants? So no, it doesn't. It's just in council tenants. But the average garage rent across the Highlands right now is £11.17. Section 7 highlights the rent options. These have been laid out, an option for a 8% increase, a 9% increase, or a 10% increase. And members are asked to consider this and perhaps vote for a rental increase for the garage sites in Dingwall and Seaforth.
Yeah, it's a hard one, the garages, because there's such a mix. What I can't understand is that the ones that are not being used, they were going to be taken down years ago, but that has never happened. And people phone up and say, when are they taking these garages down? That because they just look so bad. And some of the garages that are in a row, there may be, you know, 2 that are not in good condition, so it's lying empty. And it seems to take a long time to get any repairs done on the garages, you know, that, and I know that most of the garages are not used anymore for cars because you just can't get the big cars in. If you get it in, you can't get out of the car. So, but it's still used for bikes and everything, and it's very important. But I really am not happy to put up the rent by a lot. I mean, I would go for the 80%. I don't know what the other members are going to say. 8%. So Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I agree with you that there's been a number of years now that we have asked about the condition and the viability of many of the garages within our ward. And it must be at least 6-7 years ago when we spoke about ones in Dingwall, not too far away from this very building, and asked what was happening there about either knocking them down, making improvements and such like. Now, for me, I think that Highland Council as the landlord should be aware of the condition of the properties that they own. And we have asked many times, you know, about garages that are leaking, garages that need new roofs, you know, lots of issues with the garages within our ward. So in the report, it says at 6.1 that the total amount of rent from our garages is 158,000. So I would like to know how much of that income, or net income, I think it says later on the report, is reinvested within the garages within our ward, and does it go into, you know, a big plot where none of it is reinvested within the community? What works has the council done on the garages in our ward? Is there a report highlighting the condition of them? If not, I would like to see that happen before the end of the year. That's given you ample time, because we have asked before at committee for updates on the condition of our garages. A number of years ago, we had a previous housing manager who said that they wouldn't invest in garages, and I think we're seeing, you know, the result of that now, because they are very poor. Cars don't fit into them. Most of them are used for storage. Some of them were bought and sold when the council houses were sold. So I don't know how many. I could go and have a look and see which ones are in the best condition, because they're the ones that are usually bought. I have had a number of questions. The number that are not in rural in good repair. There's been no or little investment for many years. I want, as I say, the report on the condition of our garages, how many used for storage or for cars, why are there still 44 voids, and how long have they been void? I know you won't have that answer, Graham, but I would either like it back at an area committee or at a ward business meeting first. I don't think that 8%, as it says in the report, is what our tenants really want out of the, this goes back to the housing rent questionnaire that was sent out on rent decreases, where the minimum offered to council to tenants was 8%, and out of that only 11.5% of tenants, council tenants, replied, which worked out about 1,700 tenants replied to our questionnaire. And as you state in the report, and some of them are not council tenants, and I know from previous rent increases that we've had representation from some of the garage owners or renters who've said that, you know, that it's ridiculous the state of the garage that we're actually using. I know it's been stated in other area committees that I've watched that, you know, it's much cheaper than other storage facilities, but other storage facilities are watertight and in good condition. Our garages are not. So I would put forward a counter proposal that we don't increase the garage rent by 8%. The inflation is only, what, 3.4? It's less than 4%. I would suggest that we put forward a recommendation of 5% as a maximum, not the 8% that is in the report, just because that's what rents have gone up by, because which works out about 57 pence or something, because it's not that good value for money. And I think we need action on our garages to see, are they required, whether required, or should they be removed? Thank you.
Yes, I'm just thinking in my head that we should have a walk about the whole ward, having a look at the garages, because some of the garages I haven't seen out in Muirvord. I've seen all the ones in Dingwall, and you know, you're right, they're really hanging doors off and doors that don't lock, and they still have to pay, you know. So I don't know what we do if we do less than what's the recommendation.
This is delegated to local area committees to make a decision. Each area committee have different rates. And maybe Graham knows what those rates are. Not every area is charged the same amount for garages.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm happy to come back on some of the points you've raised. So on the last one, yes, there is differences between each local area. Each area seems to set their own rates. I'm afraid I'm not privy to the circumstances surrounding that, unfortunately, but each area does seem to have a different set rate. I know that some areas have tried to align to try and almost have like a standardised rate. But obviously it's just dependent on, like you say, views on condition and occupancy and how many are void. Just to cover some of the points that were previously made in regards to the investment in the garages, I totally understand exactly where the councillor's coming from. I would like to highlight that sub recommended increases does mean that divestment does happen. So, well, absolutely, it's not 100% of the cause, but the lack of investment in the garages is obviously part due to the income generated from the garages. It's also worth noting that the reactive repairs that happen come out of the revenue account. So the thing is, it's all about the priorities. So if you've got an overspend in the reactive budget in regards to houses, they will always take priority over garages. That is always going to happen because we need to ensure that the houses are fit for habitation. So garages will always come second to that. In regards to knocking garages down, that becomes a budgetary issue as well, because we only have limited budget to invest in such works. And again, we've got to try and identify where the priorities are. When it comes to that, we do only have a limited budget within each area. Again, we've got to try and target that to the most priority and in need items within each area. So I completely understand. In regards to a report, I know that other areas have asked for similar. It's something I will absolutely feed back to the local repairs manager for the north and the PRO for the area, and I agree that I think that would be available sometime in due course and should be brought to board business. And again, we'll feedback the recommendation for estate walkarounds with local maintenance officers who have more detailed information about the condition of each garage site, and perhaps we'll be able to bring along information in regards to how long they've been void or non-occupied or in a state of disrepair for.
Yeah, but there must be a proposal somewhere that these garages that are never used and never will be used again are demolished because they're an eyesore. And people that keep their homes lovely and there's garages opposite them, they're fed up of looking at them because they're keeping their property smart, and they look at them and you know what, it really distresses them. And you know, we've heard them over the years, they're going to be demolished, but it seems a struggle to get it done. Now, I don't know if Sean, did you signal to talk as well?
Well, I'm one of the councillors. I wouldn't mind saying something. I don't think, see how we can start asking for rent increases, and then you're saying to us that some of the rent increases might go back into housing repairs. At the end of the day, if somebody's renting a garage, they're entitled from their rent to have a repair made to the garage. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, that's only fair. The second thing I'm going to say, I'm looking at your charts about the rent increases. I mean, if I'm looking at, I really don't understand what any of your rent increases are, because 9% looks like less than 8% when I'm looking at the charts of what you're saying. So either somebody needs to go back and learn a bit of arithmetic, or can you explain why the in the report the higher increases look more than the lower increases? So I'd like an explanation to that, please.
Right, Angela, do you want to come back again
well,
before Graham answers?
And it's a shame because it's not for the first time we're having officers that I don't know the history, or, you know, they're being put up to speak to the report when it's not their report really. And I think that we need an action plan for the Dingwall and Seaforth ward, and we can decide that that's what we want to happen because we are the elected representatives of this area. And I think we need an action plan from housing on how many garages, you know, we know the number here, how many are in state of repair, do we have a repair and maintenance programme, and if we do, how much of the funding from the garage rent has been put aside in order to implement that. If we don't have one, and where has the money come from to repair the garages previously, if it's not coming out of the rent, because that's the implication within the report, is that the net money will be used for that. I think I'm frustrated, not at you, Graham, but a number of times that these reports come and we're promised repairs or we're promised works will be done, and then we don't really hear much about it again. So if we could do that. And I agree, Sean, I think they're just round the wrong way. And, you know, people that are not tenants that pay the extra VAT, you know, they want to store their stuff in a place that's safe. We also know that a number of our communities have got garages they use, and some of that is free of charge. So it'd be useful to know that too, so that we can have all the information required in order to take the next steps that we want to take as a ward and as an area. Thank you.
Right. I think I've got to take advice. So,
So you would all have to be in agreement. There's no opportunity to vote. Yeah. So yeah, you would have to agree.
a lower one than they suggested.
If you give me a minute.
Sorry, we'll have to look into this. All right. Yeah, I think we could agree to 5%. I mean, I'm happy to second you.
So unanimously, we're agreeing to 5%. Is that right?
Just like to say on the back of that, yeah. If we're going to be asked maybe next year for a bigger increase and things like that, can we make sure that maybe some work's been done on some of these garages, and the tenants that are renting it are getting some bang for the buck? Thank you.
Sorry, members, we've lost Graham.
No, I'm still here. You got me?
You're still there. Well, I think
I'm
Graham.
happy to come back into some of the points. I know you're trying to work out in the background if you're able to put in a different vote, but I'm happy to come back to some of the points. I just didn't want to jump in and interrupt you.
So, members, we are all agreed on 5%. Is that right? Right. Have you heard that, Graham?
Yeah.
We've all agreed on 5%.
And we want a report just as we asked for last year, but we want one this year.
And I think we do want a walkabout.
Yeah, I can only apologise if a report was promised and it hasn't been delivered. I do apologise.
That's all right.
I do understand that I'm not the direct officer for the area, and because of how many areas there are, we do have to do a little bit of dividing and conquering to ensure that there's representation at all committee meetings. So I do apologise that I perhaps don't have the detail you're looking for. I will feed back the requirement for a report to the local teams who manage garages. And again, apologies that even I didn't notice that the report had the figures the wrong way around. I will feed that back to the person that's prepared the report, and hopefully it was just an oversight. But I will also take back the fact that there's been a unanimous vote for a 5% increase, which is below the recommendation. I'm happy to answer any further questions, or if that's it for the garages, then I'm happy to bid you all farewell and good afternoon for the rest of the afternoon.
Yes, I really think it would be worthwhile, and I think my two fellow members agree. Yeah, and you've got the 5%, and thank you very much for attending.
Thank you very much. Right, goodbye now. Bye.
Bye. Yes, our next one is item 7, Community Regeneration Funding Award, and Chloe is on. Hi, Chloe.
Oh, good afternoon, Chair.
And
Good
she's the
afternoon, members.
project officer, so she's going to take us through it. All right.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So I'm here this morning to discuss the Community Regeneration Fund applications with you today. I'm sure you know what the CRF team do, so I won't go over that again. But ahead of today's meeting, you will have received the application forms and RAG summary spreadsheets highlighting the outcomes of the assessments undertaken. So I've got 2 applications for your consideration today, which is the 2 applications are from Dingwall Mountain Bike Trail Group and Muirvord Development Trust, and these total £1,020.79. So Dingwall Mountain Bike Trail Group are seeking £6,715, which is 20% of their total project costs, for developing a 4th trail at Knockbane Mountain Bike Centre. And Muirvord Development Trust are seeking £13,325.79 for a kitchen regeneration to refurb the hub in Muirvord to allow the trust to lease the building and to become income generating. Both projects are eligible for CRF funding, and I have no concerns that they won't be delivered in the timeline. I would like to note that the fund that these projects are being considered from is the Place-Based Investment Programme Fund. So this is a time-sensitive capital fund, and all the funding must be committed by the 31st of March 2026, or else it has to be returned to the Scottish Government. So on that basis, members are also asked to, or are recommended to ring fence the remaining £34,140.60 of place-based funding for projects to be brought forward to the May committee. The PBIP funding was received to Highland Council last June, and it's a challenge sometimes to meet the committee deadlines with getting applications out and expressions of interest coming back in. Members have previously invited forward expressions of interest and applications from Maryborough Community Woodland Group and the Peffrey Way Association. So it's recommended that you ring fence the remaining place-based funds for these projects to be brought forward and presented to you at the May 25th committee. So just overall, members, I'm asking you to approve, defer or reject the applications under consideration for Dingwall Mountain Bike Trail Group and Muirvord Development Trust, and to agree to ring fence the remaining place-based investment funds for the 2 projects, Maryborough Community Woodland Group and Peffrey Way Association. This would commit the remaining £54,181.39 of place-based funding within Dingwall and Seaforth, and the allocation would be committed by 31st of March, which means that the funds would not have to be returned to the Scottish Government. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chloe. I'm personally absolutely have no problem for both Dingwall Mountain Bike Trail and also Muirvord Development Trust. I understand that if we don't spend all the money, we have to give it back, and these are very worthwhile things. And also the Maryborough Community Woodland Group and Peffrey Way Association. I mean, we're lucky with all these proposals in our ward because they're all very worthwhile. Thank you. And I think that Councillor Kennedy wants to come in.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm very conscious of the time that we're going, so I really don't think that this comes up for any kind of discussion, Chloe. I think you've given us an excellent report, and I think the 4 associations or groups and everything, I think they're all very, very worthy of any of these money, and certainly get it ring fenced. I don't want to give anything back to the Scottish Government. I want to keep it in Dingwall and Seaforth for the enjoyment which a lot of these things for the local communities and the local residents. So I'm absolutely for it. Great report. Thank you very much for giving it to Chloe.
Councillor McLean.
Yes, thank you, Chloe. Yeah, I'm supportive of the projects as well. And when you read through each of the projects, including the first one on the not being mountain bike trials in the group. It shows all the collaborative work that's been done with other organisations, including the Pethry Way, who we are supporting as well with funding at a later stage. And given the fact that we've got Strathpeffer or Strathpuffer on our doorstep, there's a lot of enthusiasm for cycling of all ages within our area, and absolutely I would support it. Can I just clarify, because I think it's just me, over the amount that they've requested? Is that in the report? It says the CRF requested 6,715. 50? Is that all they've asked for? I thought they asked for more than that.
Are you talking about the Pethry Way Association?
Oh,
Or
maybe I'm on that one.
which
No, it
organisation
says
are you
mountain.
wondering? So the Mountain
This
Bike Trail
is-
Group are seeking 6,715 because they've managed to source the remaining funding through match funding. So this is sort of a last brick in the wall funding for them to get the project over the line, and is a 20% intervention rate.
No, it's definitely in the report here. But whatever the amount is, yeah, I'm happy to give that amount. And on the other, the Muirvord Development Trust, they've got a shortfall still, I think, in the funding. Have they?
They had
It's-
some amendments to their costs because the costs decreased slightly. So I don't think there should be a shortfall, but if there was any changes, they've got match funding to support any increases to the project, and they've confirmed
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Chloe. And I think the committee has invited to consider the Community Regeneration Funding Award. And I think we are all agreeing to that. And we're also agreeing to ring fence the remaining 34,140 or as well, for Community Woodlands Group, which is absolutely fantastic, Maryborough, and the Pethry Way Association, which is wonderful as well. So we're very happy to agree that. Okay, members? Thank you.
Thank you, members. Thank you.
Now we're on to item 8, Dingwall Common Good Fund, and consider and agree the Dingwall Common Good Fund. And Lynn is going to take us through it. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Members, you will be familiar with the standard format of this report. This is the annual summary of the previous year's accounts, the Q3 monitoring position for the current financial year, and the proposed budget for the year ahead for Dingwall Common Good Fund. The detailed information is set within the report, and the accounts, the Q3 monitoring and the proposed budget are detailed in appendices 1 to 3. I'm very happy to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Any questions?
Sorry. No, it's good. What does and I probably asked this before, the central support cost, the £900, what does the central support do for that £900? I understand the other budget, the 1,700, and that's not increasing for the next financial year. But what do they do different from the staff costs? I have another question.
Thank you, Councillor McLean. Are you content that I answer that, Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, central support costs relate to all of the central support services that support the common good in the background. So things like finance services, those sorts of things that are not costed. The staff costs are specific around the Common Good Fund officer input. Thank you.
So, right, okay. So I suppose my last point is, if you could clarify 8.1 is on the budget expenditure, that is officers approve common good fund grants expenditure up to £10,000 against the annual budget agreed at committee and consultation with ward members. Is that different from what we're doing at the moment? I just wondered why that was there. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor McLean. No change to this. Is a standard wording that you will see annually in this report. It does not reflect any change to process. It's just at the budget setting part of the year, members are asked to approve that. Thank you.
Yes,
Just a very
Councillor
quick one,
Kennedy.
according to that, Len, there's 349,000 in the common good fund at the moment. That's it, 5.2. Is that correct?
Yes, as reported in the report, no change to that, Councillor. Thank you.
So, are you happy with it? Yes. Okay, both fine. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Item 9, Dingwall and Seaforth area plan, and Lynn is going to take us through the progress update.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. The Dingwall and Seaforth Area Police Plan was adopted by this committee just about this time last year, the 10th of February 2025. And the priorities identified within the Area Police Plan span a wide range of topics, including community safety, wellbeing, events, facilities, learning opportunities, and the overall appearance and presentation of the town and surrounding villages. A delivery group has been established to support the implementation of the identified priorities, and that involves a wide range of stakeholders who bring valuable perspectives and expertise. The delivery group is action focused, ensuring tangible outputs and outcomes, and is the ideal forum to review and refresh priorities on an ongoing basis. Although it's still in its relatively early stages, the delivery group has already completed several actions, including working with Police Scotland to review CCTV coverage in Dingwall, collaborating with Justice Services regarding litter pick, encouraging and supporting stakeholders to lead on identified priorities. Further detail is included within the report, and I'll be very happy to respond to any questions members may have. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lynn. Is there any questions? All right, or oh, didn't see your hand coming up, Angela.
Sorry, I didn't want to put my hand up first. Thank you, Lynn, for the report. And I agree that the committee is, that when we meet, the group's action focused, and that you have taken forward a number of the issues that have been raised at committee. I would say that my concern as a local member is the perhaps we need more community representation on the group, and maybe if we could refresh that, because there's going to be a lot of change, especially in the Dingwall area over the next couple of years. And I suppose my concern is on the recommendation too, to support the targeting of service programmes and external funding to meet the area police plan priorities when appropriate. And I can see that because everything we seem to be targeting is on the police planning, but a lot of maybe organisations haven't had the same amount of involvement within the police plan, and their priorities may not be the priorities of the delivery group. And we have talked about at the meetings that, and you've got it in the report, that this is it's like a living plan. It will adapt and change. But my concern is that as we move towards the Dingwall hub and all the changes that may be happening over the next few years in Dingwall, some of the other areas within our ward may feel that they are left out, or that they don't have, you know, the same voice. And I know that is not the intention, but it's in order to ensure that they still engage and their priorities are also met within our area police plan. So that's just what I want to raise, because I know that some areas maybe the groups have not been as active, but they are now much more active. And like Muirvord and Conan and in Maryborough and at Tor, you know, they've got a voice as well. And Tor are very much represented at these meetings. But I think there's groups that are not represented, and I don't want them to feel as if they've been left out, if that's okay.
Yeah. Do you want to respond? Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor McLean. Yes, if I can reassure, the group is in no way exclusive. The delivery group is very much about bringing groups together, and if there are any groups who are not already engaged, they will be very welcomed. There are many that are on the distribution list who, for one reason or another, are unable to attend, but often will give their apologies and so on. You'll appreciate the challenge around finding a day and a time that meets with everybody's availability. But if I can reassure, we have got excellent engagement, as you mentioned, from community councils. So we've got 3 of the 5 community councils within the ward regularly attending, which is very, very welcomed indeed. What I would say is that if anyone is aware of any groups that would like to engage in the process who are not already, please do get in touch, and they will be very welcome, and I can arrange to meet with them to explain what the group does and also to ensure that they have the invitations to the group. So I'm very happy to take any recommendations, of course, from councillors and from any others, so from representatives on the group. And what I shall make sure that I do at the next meeting is that I ensure that that message is out there to everyone in the group, to invite everyone to invite any other groups that they may know of, to ensure that they're aware. I hope that gives you the reassurance. Yeah, thanks. Did that pick up on all your points, Councillor McLean? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lynn. No, right. Members, the committee is invited to consider and note this annual report recognising the progress made by the Dingwall and Seaforth Area Plan, Place Plan Delivery Group, and agree to support the targeting of services, programmes and returning funding to meet the area police plan priorities when appropriate. Do you agree? Yeah, thank you very much. Now we're on item 10, Dingwall Academy Association School Group Overview, and the committee is invited to scrutinise and note the content of the report. And Annika Janison is there. Hi there. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon, members, and
Yeah.
thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
Do you
excellent.
want anything add to your report before the members ask you questions?
No, it's just I could see you have seen this update report before, and please note, you know, the updates for primary schools from June 25. The only thing I would like to add is to say that obviously we got 9 primary schools, and we have a number there. I mean, have been inspected. This is the last time we actually had an inspection since the report of Tara Primary School as well, but the report has not been published yet. That was the only thing I would like to add to that.
Okay, thank you. Members, Councillor McLean. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Annika. And although it's the area, you know, a number of the schools are not in our ward, so we won't, or in our area. Where does St Clement's sit within this? This is just that, you know, people might look at the list and go, what about St Clement's? And I know that's because it's a special needs school, it's done separately, but you know, maybe if that was maybe highlighted within the report that St Clement's is you know, a school within our area. And I suppose some of the information, because of the numbers of pupils within the classes, it's difficult to drill right down to some of the information. And it'd be useful to know, because Graham Mackenzie, as an ex-head teacher, would be through this information with a fine tooth comb, you know, and asking you really pertinent questions, whereas probably we don't have that expertise here. But what you can see here as well is that some of the smaller schools have got very good But over the last few months, there's been either long-term sickness and some head teachers, and there's been sharing of head teachers between more schools. Will that have an impact going forward or not? And also, I think you touched on the last time the schools were inspected. I mean, some of them are over 5 years. So there's probably a few of them going to be inspected at the same time, and some of them may have the same interim or head teacher. And is that going to have an impact on the schools? Can you delay any of them if it does happen? And the capacity for the schools, and lots of people keep saying the more houses that are built at Conan Bridge and in Muirvord, there isn't the capacity within the school, for new pupils. Could you maybe reassure us that that is the case? And on the non-attendance, what's been done to encourage attendance in some of the schools? And do you have a number for the children that are homeschooled that are not part of this report because they're not the responsibility in some ways of the local authority to ensure their attainment? That's down to the parents. I think I'll leave it there and let others answer questions.
Councillor McLean, would you like to respond? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. First of all, St Clements, I think that's an excellent question. Obviously, we are 5 to 18 in there. So what I would like to say as well, if you have pertinent questions, particular schools, I would be really happy to come along with a head teacher, to answer those questions, maybe in a ward meeting, where we can go through it with a fine-tooth comb as well. But I do think it's an excellent question by St Clements, and that's something I'm going to take forward, obviously, to my line managers as well. Smaller schools, the good leadership, you're talking about that, so I'm going to be clear on that as well. So the standards of quality report is the evaluation of the schools themselves. Obviously now, as an ACWIM coming in, I'm scrutinising that together with them. Long-term absence, we are absolutely supporting our schools. I'm supporting them, my education supporting officer also support them as well. And also, if we're asking somebody to support another school because of absence for different reasons, we're also putting in capacity to backfill them as well. And that could be meaning that they get more time out of class, or we get more staff out to support them within their own current schools. That's also good, obviously, for future leadership of young teachers and other teachers that want to come through and get a taste of management too. So we're building our capacity that way too. Last time inspected, I'm going to say in this area, there's quite a few schools that probably will be inspected soon. And they are absolutely my focus at the moment, to give them right preparation and support them as well. As I said, Taradale, they had been inspected last time, 2010. They were just recently inspected, and we're hoping the report is going to be out soon. But there are other schools within the area that also had their last inspection 2010 or 2011. So that is very much a focus of our support on that too as well. Capacity, I believe that would be an estates forecast with Gavin all day, but I can go back to Gavin and get the reassurance we will need about that. The non-attenders, we have an attendance policy that's very clearly set out how we're supporting our families around that. As you will know as well, we have seen a difference of non-attenders after COVID. We have children with maybe anxieties. There's a lot going on with some children, why they don't feel they can attend schools or come into schools. We're following our policy, but obviously we'll also be handling very carefully, because we also want our children back into school and reaching out to them. So even if it's starting off with a part-time timetable, that then leads on with a fuller, extensive supported entitlement for those children. Homeschooled numbers, I don't have them handy, but I can also link in and find out that number for you. However, around attainment and achievement around that, as you know, as you also said, we don't have a duty of care or so on to follow up on that with them, but we will have an exact number you have within the area who are being homeschooled. So happy follow up. Thank you.
Thank you, Anika. Yeah, Sean.
Thank you. You know, I read this and I get quite a nice feeling in my heart and everything with it. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be at the Taradale primary meeting when the report was unveiled by the head teacher, and it was to see, you know, with such a good report, what it did for the teaching staff and the parents at the meeting was lovely to be part of. And I just think that looking at, you know, everything that's in the report for all of the three main schools in our area, which is Taradale, Benwivers, and Dingwall, you know, that you know, the leadership of these schools is absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoy going around any of these the primary schools because, you know, the way that the staff and everything engage with all the pupils seem to engage back and things like that. So I mean, really, this report today, it's showing that you know, within Dingwall and Seaforth, the schools are doing something right, which really it all comes down to the dedication of the staff and the superb leadership that all of these schools seem to have. So I'm really happy with this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Kennedy. So we note happily. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't like to hog all the questions, so I do have another couple. And I suppose that's on the Dingwall Academy and the secondary attainment. It says here we're 65% at 9.21 against the virtual comparator, sorry, of 70% for level 5 numeracy. So, and we've got a new head teacher as well, a rector at Dingwall Academy. So is there work being done in improving that, or is that a good, see, Graham would say, oh, that is a really good place to be, whereas as a non-educationalist, I don't know if that's a really good place to be for numeracy and for literacy at 9.2. And my last question, Annika, was on pupils leaving school. There's still some that are saying they're not seeking employment and unknown. What would constitute an unknown, given there doesn't seem to be any there, but previously there was 0.16. So does that mean that Highland Council now knows exactly where all their pupils, when they leave school, are going, whether that be a positive destination or not? Thank you.
Thank you. Anika, would you like to respond to that, please?
Yes. Thank you. Can I just say, first to Councillor Kennedy, I'm really pleased what you said about our head teachers. Their commitment is absolutely phenomenal to the communities, but also to each other in supporting one another across the ESG. Councillor McLean, a virtual comparator is just a measure around an anonymous school somewhere in Scotland with a similar context to Dingwall. Yes, we measure ourselves against a virtual comparator because it gives you a good place where you're at. However, that doesn't settle you if you're in line with a virtual comparator. You always want to improve from year to year to year. And obviously, I'm working with Dr. Vance around the next steps around improving the literacy and numeracy, as is all Highland secondary schools too. Unknown, just exactly what Councillor McLean said. In the past, we could have kids or children who are maybe moving on to a different area within Scotland, and it's difficult sometimes to exactly follow up what their positive destination is. But as you said, if it's, we all know where they're out to, we know we can track every single child as they have left secondary schools. But sometimes we could have one or two that it's difficult to, as I said, for different reasons, to follow up on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, are you content with the report? Thank you very much. they're content with the report.
Thank you.
Right, members, we're on the last bit, I think. We have Dingwall and Seaforth Ward discretionary budget applications approved since the last meeting, and Lynn will take us through them. I think they're all nice lunch ones.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is for noting, members. Happy to take any questions if there are any. Otherwise, if you're content to note. Thank you.
Noted, members. Thank
Absolutely.
You.
How much have we got left in the ward discretionary? I didn't see it.
Apologies, Councillor Kennedy. I don't have the precise figure, but it's around about £5,000. Yeah, thank you. I'll get a precise figure for you after committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just curiosity. And our last one is the minutes, which have already been approved by the council on 11th of December 2025 for us noting it. You note it? Okay, and that's the end of the meeting. And thank you very much. And thank you very much to the staff here. They've guided it as well. Okay.